Now for problem number 6. This is an interesting question. It's pure logic. It's not really like equation oriented or anything like that. Miss Carroll promised that anyone who got all the multiple choice questions right on the upcoming exam would receive an A on the exam. Which one of these statements necessarily follows logically? Now this is the trap for you. Many people maybe don't know the shortcut and they want to try to see if they can apply their logical reasoning skills to the available answer choices, and they think they can. So they maybe just try to look at them and see which one sounds best. The problem with that is sometimes answers sound really good that are not good at all. If Lewis, answer choice C for example, if Lewis got at least one of the multiple choice questions wrong, then he did not receive an A. A very common trap answer. Why is that? Why does it not have to be correct? It says necessarily follows logically. We don't know what happens if he gets a multiple choice wrong but gets, say, the free response, which are not talked about, all of them right. He could still get an A. We really don't know what happens in that situation. So if you rely on your thinking skills, you might fall for one of the available trap answers. What you want to use is something you learn in first semester or the first half of geometry, typically in the modern geometry textbooks. That is converse, inverse, contrapositive. So if our opening statement, we can think of it as, let's just say if A then B is a conditional statement. The converse of that is you switch them. If B then A. The inverse is that you switch again and you negate. If not A, then not B. This is the converse, the inverse, and lastly the contrapositive. This is a Boolean logic symbol. It means not or negation. If this one, you're just going to switch them one more time, but keep the negations. If not B, then not A. Memorize the whole chart, this order of how it goes. The first statement and the contrapositive are logically equivalent, and the converse and inverse are logically equivalent. You can have a true original conditional statement and a false converse. It's fine. You could have both be true. That's fine also. But what will always be true is whatever the truth value of the original statement is, the contrapositive will have the same truth value. Use this to unlock the answer. We can reformat what it says to if all multiple choice questions are right, then you get an A. Well, then what's the contrapositive? If you look from here to here, all that happens is you switch and negate. So it becomes if not A, then not all multiple choice questions are right. So which answer says that? Let's look at B. If Lewis did not receive an A, then he got at least one of the multiple choice questions wrong. In other words, not all right. So the answer choice is B. Okay, now for problem 7. Jerry and Sylvia wanted to go from the southwest corner of a square field. Stop and make sense of what you're reading. Make a little square field, and they're located here. To the northeast corner, they want to get to here. Jerry, politely, walked due east and then due north. So he goes here and here to reach the goal, but Sylvia headed northeast, crossing over the grass or whatnot, and reached the goal walking in a straight line. Which of the following is closest to how much shorter Sylvia's trip was compared to Jerry's? This is a problem where we can plug in some numbers. We can use variables if we want, like x and x, but we might as well just use 1. Using 1 and 1 on a square by 45, 45, 90, this is root 2. It's a really good idea to memorize that root 2 is approximately 1.4 and root 3 is approximately 1.7. They come up a lot in the contests, and sometimes having a good estimate is helpful. So basically Sylvia goes 1.4 and Jerry goes 2. So how much shorter is her trip? Her trip is 0.6 shorter, 2 minus the 1.4, than Jerry's trip. So we want how much shorter it was compared to Jerry's. So the difference in their travel amounts over Jerry's amount will be equal to P over 100. If you multiply by 10 over 10, you'll get 6 over 20, which is 3 over 10, which tells you the percent is about 30%. Starting problem 8. At a gathering of 30 people, there are 20 people who all know each other and 10 people who know no one. People who knew each other hug, and people who do not know each other shake hands. How many handshakes occur? So right away, we don't really care about the hug. It's irrelevant information. The handshakes, how to approach this? You might think that each person, there's 10 that don't know, each one of them shakes hands with 29 people, so maybe it's 10 times 29 is 290. That would be a trap. Don't fall for it. So if it's a trap, why doesn't it work? It's because the people who don't know each other when they shake hands, that counts for one handshake for two people. You don't count it from both directions. So the way you can handle it separately is you can take each of the 10 people who doesn't know anyone, they shake each of the 20 people's hands that do know each other. That will be 10 times 20 is 200. What about handshakes among these people who don't know anyone? For that, we're going to use combinations. And it's simply 10 choose 2. There is a shortcut for calculating combinations. N choose 2, if it has a 2 in the bottom, is going to equal n times n minus 1 over 2. So for this, it will be 10 times 9 over 2, which is 45. We'll add the 45 to the 200. That's B, and that's the answer. All right, continuing on, we're going to do the 2017 10A problem number 9. Minnie rides on a flat road at 20 kilometers per hour. Immediately, pull out the tool for rate problems. That's usually going to be 99% of the time, rate times time equals distance. Also, we can see it's a very large problem to read, so we should probably kind of work through it as we go instead of reading the whole thing and then trying to go back and do that process all over again. So it tells you what Penny does, and then it says Minnie goes from town A to town B, a distance of 10 kilometers all uphill. So we're going to put M up for Minnie going uphill, a distance of 10. Minnie's uphill rate is 5 kilometers per hour, so it's going to take her 2 hours. We go back down to continue her journey. Then from town B to town C, a distance of 15 kilometers all downhill. So this is M down, distance 15. The rate she goes downhill at is right here at 30. We plug the rate in, and this must be 1/2. So rate times time, 30 times a half equals 15. The last part of the journey is going to be the flat distance. And then back to town A, a distance of 20 kilometers on the flat. So the distance is 20. Her rate is 20. So this will take her 1 hour, total of 3.5 hours. Okay? Next up, it goes to Penny. Penny's rates were in the second sentence. It says that Penny goes the other way around using the same route. The same route's kind of confusing because she's actually going to go from A to C first, and then to B, and then back to A. So for Penny, it's going to be Penny on the flat first because the distance from town C to A was 20 kilometers on the flat. So going both directions, it's going to be flat. So then her rate on the flat is 30 kilometers per hour. So it's going to take her 2/3 of an hour to complete that. The next part is where it gets tricky, and I would imagine if you didn't think about this, this is one of the trap answers on the test. And so, for this problem at least. since she's going the other way, when she goes from A to C, right, that's flat. But when she goes from C to B, remember that that was downhill for Minnie. But because Minnie went from B to C, it's going to be uphill for Penny. So it's reversed, right? Because the hill doesn't change. So now it's Penny uphill. And the distance from C to B for Penny is still 15 kilometers, as it was for Minnie's downhill journey. Penny goes uphill at 10 kilometers per hour. So 15 divided by 10 is 3 over 2, 1.5 hours. All right, the last one is if she's gone flat and up, she's going to have to go downhill when she returns from B back to A. The distance from B to A is the same as Minnie's uphill distance. That distance was 10. And her rate for Penny going uphill is at 10 kilometers per hour. Or downhill, rather, we need. So that's 40 kilometers per hour. Then 40 times 1/4 will be 10. Okay, so for her it's 1.5 or 1 hour 30 minutes. 2/3 of an hour is 40 minutes, and 1/4 of an hour is 15 minutes. So you've got 1 hour and 85 minutes, which would be 2 hours and 25 minutes to travel. Whereas for her, it was 3 hours, 30 minutes. And the question asks, how many more minutes does it take Minnie than it does Penny? It's going to be an hour and 5 minutes, or 65 minutes, which is answer choice C. And in this video, we're going to do the 2017 AMC 10A problem 10. Joy has 30 thin rods, one each of every integer length from 1 centimeter through 30 centimeters. She places the rods with length 3, 7, and 15 on a table. She then wants to choose a 4th rod that she can put with these 3 to form a quadrilateral with positive area. The positive area just means normal quadrilateral. How many of the remaining rods can she choose as the 4th rod? Now initially, many people who might not be familiar with this are thinking, okay, I know there's triangle inequality, but what about quadrilateral inequality? Well, the thing is, if you think about why triangle inequality works, right? If I have a side and I have 2 other sides over here, but they're not long enough to be longer than this, they won't connect to make a triangle. Well, the same reasoning should apply to a quadrilateral as well. And so what must be true is that 3 plus 7 plus 15, the other 3 sides, are going to have to be greater than x. And similarly, if I add the 3 smallest sides, if we think of x being smaller than 15, then 3 plus 7 plus x is going to have to be greater than 15. So we simplify this, we get 1825, so x is less than 25, and you move the 10 over, you're going to get x is greater than 5. Now many people got to this point in the problem, and then they said, okay, so I can do either 24 minus 6 plus 1 or 25 minus 5 minus 1, either one of those things they thought of. So 25 minus 5 is 20, minus 1 is 19. There are 19 integer values for x to take on. And many people thought, this is sound reasoning, and they chose D. I'm sorry if you were one of those people, but it's not D. This is a very good trap answer that's put there for you. Again, the AMC thinks about what mistakes a student will make and puts your mistaken answers on the test so that you feel really good about your false response. Always be careful about something so easy in a problem 10. Okay, so why was it not 19? Because we've already used 7 and 15. And since we've used those already, they can't be one of the values for x. So you have to subtract those 2 values, and there are actually 17 other values.